He drops a comment on the REM Fall on Me episode, that
Oh,
part of that jazz funk odyssey that we call REM the IRS years. What the fuck was that?
that was the hugest fucking fly I've seen in a long time. That shit was like a sparrow.
I thought it was a fucking
Jesus
bat.
Christ.
I thought you still had the props from the fucking Sabbath episode.
Christ, I might as well bite its head off. I could easily. That thing was fucking huge.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of That's Audiophiles. Yeah, John, Andy, you got to be crazy. You got to have a real need. You got to sleep on your toes, and when you're on the street, you got to be able to pick off the easy meat with your eyes closed. More on that later. But we have a song to listen to, and it's Friday, so it is a suggestion for one of our lovely viewers. And for your enjoyment today, we have a band that I know quite well. Down the list we go. We pluck this one out. And I know it, so it's Andy's turn. So this song was suggested by Arlo on the episode Fall on Me by REM, part of the jazz funk odyssey that we are slowly drawing to a conclusion very soon. And they have suggested a band called the Godfathers. And the track is Birth, School, Work, Death. Rinse and repeat.
Yes. Yeah. The only thing missing there are taxes. Yeah, I'm not really.
Don't pay taxes. It's well known.
Yeah, it'll come to no surprise to anyone, because that's why we're here and I'm doing this track. But yeah, I don't know anything about the Godfathers, so I'm quite literally flying blind on this one. So I will endeavor to go off and give this a listen, and I'll come back and let you and everyone else know exactly what I think. It's interesting. It started off with that kind of twangy sound to that electric guitar that they're using. And I instantly thought, oh, this reminds me of just Southern rock guitar. Not like a dead ringer, but it's got shades of that, especially with the tone of the guitar. And then he starts singing, and I'm like, this sounds more like Southern England than Southern United States. Despite that, it's really, really cool. It's just interesting that the tone of the guitar took me one place. Then you hear the singer and you're like, oh, how wrong I was. So anyway, let's see where we go. Love Michael Caine. No. Great drums. I wish that guitar lead lasted a little bit longer. Again, gonna speak of the tone of the guitar. Loved its tone during that lead. Sounded great. It could have gone for a little bit longer though, like I said. And before that, I don't think sort of recall hearing this in the first chorus, but there is this like the second refrain of the chorus. There are these added like almost Beatle-esque ascending that were going on in the background. It's kind of like this complementary harmony mechanism that they added, and I liked that as well. We're gonna take this back a little bit. Let's go like right here. Yeah. I like that. Yeah, yeah. Oh, they were really throwing the whole kitchen sink there at the end. I mean, you had all these. I mean, obviously they're repeating the chorus, but musically the extra lead guitar bits, that ascension was going on, the more rapid fire kind of drum fills that were peppered in there, which actually I really liked how they kind of bookended the choruses throughout the song. I mean, the verse would rap, you'd get that, you get the chorus, then you get that back into the next portion of the song. So yeah, I really like those drums. I really loved both those kind of like lead guitar interludes, if you will. They weren't like these long, motifs throughout the song, but they appeared twice. And I wish that they had done more with that because I really loved the tone. There was really some talent there on the lead guitar. I just wish I had heard more of it. As far as, the meaning of the song, I think it's pretty, at least from a macro standpoint, it's pretty easy to understand the four phases of life and how, there's not much, at least for the narrator in this song, and he's probably speaking on behalf of like a certain class of people that have been overlooked, but there's not much going on in between those four phases, or whatever isn't worth highlighting, because it's either, mundane or lackluster or sad. There were a lot of kind of red flag lyrics that I caught here and there that during the verses that definitely made it sound like it was not the most exciting life to lead. So yeah, interesting stuff. wrapped up in a really accessible package musically, I thought. So yeah, let's get back to John and learn more about birth, school, work, and death, and the Godfathers. Good tune.
Well, now, here he is once again.
Yes, yes, he is. Oh man, I don't know if it was and this is one of those funny things when you haven't heard some or heard of a band before and you just work with whatever little information you're given to try to like piece together some sort of like presupposition. And I guess because it was offered on the REM
Oh, you're
video.
thinking about a nice little.
Well, not just that. I was thinking like maybe geographically there are some similarities. And I'll tell you what, for the first 5-7 seconds with that kind of twangy-ish guitar, I was thinking, oh, this could be Southern United States. And then your man started singing, and I was thinking, this isn't south of the Mason-Dixon line. This is south of Cambridge. So like there was definitely like he had kind of that London-y kind of accent to it, the singing style going for him. So I was like, okay, this is definitely not an American band. So yeah, but it kicks off. It's got this, like I said, kind of this quasi Southern rock twang to the guitar tone and this upbeat tempo. And it's all quite accessible and enjoyable. I'm liking what I hear. And I was taken aback a little bit when your man started singing, only because of my own preconceptions, not because of anything he did. He sounded just perfectly fine. And the main motif of that song that like that the beginning of the song has is kind of like the ground. It's essentially the verses of the song. And there's this like I catch lines in the first verse about Michael Caine, or a film including Michael Caine, and then something about abuse. And then there's this allusion to kissing Thatcher's shoes, I think is what I call it. Something like that. Yeah. Fuck her. I think that's how y'all do it. And the singer says, I've been high and I've been low and I don't know where to go, which is then followed by this really nice, crisp, robust drum fill that segues its way into the chorus. And what I noticed about that drum fill is that it is kind of like the point of demarcation for each part of the song. So, which is, not that uncommon, but it's no more or less engaging because of it. So it was always kind of this thing you look for as your beacon light to the next portion of the song. And so after that drum fill, that first initial one, we get the chorus. And it's really this minimalist chorus from a lyrical standpoint. It's just the track title. But it's delivered in almost this like militant way with this group sort of chant delivery, which I thought was an intriguing mechanism and one that I'm sure was intentional to give it that kind of feel. And we're treated to another verse right there again after a little drum action. And there is an allusion to heroin and idle hands. And this idea of cutting oneself but not bleeding. Some real chipper shit. And there's another terrific drum roll. And that leads us again into this really interesting minimalist chorus. Except when the second refrain of the second chorus hits, it is bolstered by these ascending harmonies on the ah. And it's very reminiscent of like early Beatles stuff and really just the music of that time. But I think the Beatles are immediately who I think of when I think of that. And it was kind of an interesting choice to add that to this otherwise, because you think like almost like love song pop type stuff when you hear the but it's against this like, birth. That kind of militant delivery. And so I just thought it was an interesting dynamic that they were playing with there. And yes, we get some brief lead guitar work after this. And I will say, it was good lead guitar work. I wish it would have gone for a little bit longer. I wish it would have kept its feet in the water. I don't know, another 15 or 25 seconds would have been great. Because right when I was really starting to get into it and like it, it kind of fell back. And it fell back into a third verse. Again, third verse. And there again, the lyrical content here in verse 3 is no more sunshine and rainbows and butterflies than the previous two. And then around the 312 mark, just after another chorus, we get this really interesting revving, like a motor revving of the guitar, which signals another brief little guitar portion. Uh, and then we get treated to the chorus, which utilizes the same harmonies featured earlier in the track. And at this point, they're kind of like knowing that the song is kind of coming to the end and following the timestamp and the bar that's moving along the bottom. I understand that we're nearing the end here, and they're really throwing the kitchen sink at the sound that they're creating as sort of this great crescendo before the send off. And you get like the guitar like lead work is sort of being used underneath of the chorus, which is repeating itself at this point. You got a lot of splashy cymbals that are hitting. They're doing the harmonies and the chanting. And it's really quite this full sound as it works its way towards the final, what is resonant kind of guitar note, and these, again, splashy cymbals that kind of mark the end of the song. I thought it was, I used this term earlier, it's a very accessible song. Like, I think the bluest or the most intriguing or outside of the box bit of this song is not so much the music. That doesn't make it not good. The music was fine. But it was these lyrics that seemed to cut a little bit deeper and be slightly less superficial than the music otherwise sounded, because it was very verse chorus. You know, it was kind of your typical blueprint on how to write a rock and roll song. You know, musically, I'd give it like a B minus, but the lyrics were intriguing enough that it's a strong 85 to a B plus range with added intrigue. Now, obviously, I'm no dummy, and I've lived long enough to understand what birth, school, work, death means. Like, for some people in some classes in some societies, this is pretty much the four pinnacle moments of your life, and the stuff that falls in between is either not worth mentioning or is too mundane or too sad to really underscore or highlight. So when you're left at the end, the only thing you've ever accomplished were things like being born, going to school, working, and then dying. Which is, I mean, that's sad, right? But it's true, and I think it transcends political or geographic, lines, and is kind of, something that people can experience all over the world. So I think it's very relatable, and perhaps that makes the lyrics kind of accessible as well, even though they aren't as, I don't know, the music had kind of this chipper nature to it, like upbeat, bright, twangy guitar. But the lyrics got more to the bone, which I thought was an interesting dynamic.
Yeah. I mean, I know the Godfathers. In fact, actually, I think my introduction to the Godfathers would have been this album, and this is the title track from this album on cassette.
So,
And then I
well, you've
went,
said two things: cassette and Thatcher. So this is 80s.
hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll get into it in a sec. But yeah, I mean, my view on Godfathers is I think they're a meat and potatoes sort of rock band. You know, what they do have is a certain attitude born out of their time, which is angry, anti-establishment.
Yeah.
You know, they had a image as well. They were all suited and booted, which again was quite unusual for that time. They had a coolness about them. They had a certain thing they did every year, which was really cool as well. So musically, not that outstanding, but they're almost like the equivalent of sort of someone like AC/DC. What
Hmm.
they do is pretty unremarkable, but they do it so well
Yeah.
that you just enjoy it. They, AC/DC have done the same 12 songs through the whole career,
Yeah.
really. Little twists here and there. I'm being a bit mean, perhaps, but not that mean. But what they do is, I'm a big fan. I fucking well, obviously, the earlier stuff. Um, no offense to Mr. Johnson, but yeah, not that stuff. Anyway, I'm getting beside the point. So yeah, I really enjoyed them. I think this is a decent song as well. It is, you say, accessible, catchy. It's got great riffs, got great attitude, some
Yeah.
snarling lyrics, which really are of that time as well. It's quite cool. So I think this is a really interesting sort of recommendation. And where they got that, Arlo Pop got this from by listening to Fall on Me, we'll never know. I'm glad they did.
It was a good shout,
Oh,
regardless. But
yeah. I'll
yeah,
go into the band, and there's a couple of really interesting anecdotes. So the Godfathers were formed really by brothers Peter and Chris Coyne after the demise of the Sid Presley Experience in 1985. Now, please indulge me here because this is quite interesting.
of
So, in
course.
the early 80s, they had formed this punk outfit, the Sid Presley Experience, with guitarist Del Bartle and drummer Kevin Murphy. Um, the Sid Presley Experience released 2 singles and toured with Billy Bragg on his Jobs for Youth tour of Britain. This was very much a social political sort of tour. I think it was sponsored by the Labour Party at the time in opposition to
Yeah.
Thatcher's government. And I think there was even some sort of speech making done at each gig as well. We had a few of those going on. Red Wedge was another one, which had various people in it. So, but the Sid Presley Experience weren't political. They were more notable for their infighting and regular physical confrontations between the Coen brothers on one side and Bartle and Murphy on the other. At one gig, top producer Trevor Horn, fresh from having 3 number 1 singles with Frankie Goes to Hollywood, had turned up looking for another sort of controversial successor to sign to his ZTT label. The band had a big argument before going on stage. Then they had a fight on stage. And then they had a bigger fight afterwards. The producer, not surprisingly, left without signing anything or anyone. According to Peter Coyne, he was looking for something provocative, but I don't think he wanted the real thing. So this is where it gets funny. By the summer of 1985, the fights had escalated within the band to a point where Bartle and Murphy wouldn't show up for rehearsals, interviews, or indeed gigs. So the group naturally split up. So the Coins kept the Sid Presley name tag and formed a new lineup and went off for their first tour of America. In a final twist of the Sid Presley saga, says here, Bartle and Murphy, however, formed their own version of the band, the new Sid Presley Experience, and then sued. In the ensuing legal chaos that followed, both bands lost the rights to the name. I don't know how that happens. So the new
Oh my
act was
god.
renamed and the Godfathers were born. Um, so members at this point: Peter Coyne, vocals; Chris Coyne, bass; Mike Gibson, guitar; Chris Dollymore, guitar; and George Mazur, drums. So their first release, they did their first album release was called Hit by Hit in 1986. It was a compilation of their first 3 singles, which they put out on their own corporate image label. And this album reached number 3 in the UK indie charts. And surprisingly, it included the Rolf Harris penned song Sun Arise. And that is the 12-inch of it there.
Oh.
They then signed to Epic Records and in 88 put out their second album, Birth, School, Work, Death.
Hmm.
The title track made the US Billboard's top 40
Oh wow.
after college radio and MTV airplay. I think that's amazing
Yeah.
for a small band. But the band were so much less commercially successful in the UK. The album got to number 80 in the UK charts. They never bothered the charts at all. So of this sound, this album, sorry, All Music called the band sound tough, describing it as brass-knuckled punches in the form of menacing, explosive riffs, venom-spewing, nihilistic vocals, body-slamming percussion. Yet the Godfathers never forget the importance of the hook. And Trouser
Yeah.
Press wrote the album seethes with the anger and aggression that seemed to have all but gone out of non-hardcore British post-punk rock, which is probably a fair point to a certain extent. So then they brought out another album, more songs about love and hate, which I've got here somewhere. I just love the cover, Richard Burton and Elizabeth Taylor. It's really good. And actually, my favorite Godfather song is "She Gives Me Love," first one on that album, and it's more of the same as you can imagine. Really good though, really hooky. Nothing groundbreaking at all. And then they brought
No,
out Unreal.
the whole mastering the hook thing that was mentioned earlier totally
Yeah,
checks out, at least on my one experience having listened to this, because there were some earworms in this song.
yeah, definitely. And I can't believe I just slammed that back and didn't. Oh, you go. And then after that, they brought out another album called Unreal World. This is the 12-inch of the title track as well. For that, um, that was in 1991. Um, Chris Burrows replaced Chris Dollimore on guitar in time for that album. The Godfathers left Epic and then released a live album and 2 studio albums on German label Intercord in the early to mid 90s, and the band ceased activity in 2000.
Mm.
So I'll go through the lyrics of the song. Been turned around till I'm upside down, been all at sea until I've drowned. And I felt torture, I felt pain, just like that film with Michael Caine. I think he's referring to the Chris files when he gets captured. I've been abused and I've been confused. I've kissed Margaret Thatcher's shoes. I've been high and I've been low and I don't know where to go. He's talking about suffering, obviously. Birth, school, work, death, birth, school, work, death. And heroin was a love you gave from the cradle to the grave. Boys and girls don't understand. The devil makes work for idle hands. I cut myself, but I don't bleed because I don't get what I need. Doesn't matter what I say, tomorrow's still another day. Birth, school, work, death, birth, school, work, death. Yeah, I've been high and I've been low and I don't know where to go. I've been living on the never, never, never. This time it's going to be forever. I'll live and die. Don't ask me why. I want to go to paradise and I don't need your sympathy. There's nothing in this world for me. Birth, school, work, death, all the way through to the end. So yeah, it's a kind of nihilistic approach that basically people of a certain strata in society, their lives are mapped out. Stay in your fucking lane. Do the jobs we don't want to do. Make sure our bins are emptied and our food is served to us on time, and fuck off. And that's it, really. And there's that anger there, anti-establishment, and plenty of attitude, which is one of the big things about them.
Yeah, that's a
Surprisingly,
message I can definitely get behind, and it's definitely what stood out
yeah,
to me the most. Were these kind of evocative lyrics that were clearly touching on, sort of the like you had mentioned, the certain classes in society are relegated to just this as their sort of pre-clandestine lot, and it's interesting and sad. And I think they summed it up really well. I would say musically for me, what was the coolest part was this idea of this, like you, another word you use, nihilistic approach to the chorus, the chanting, sort of the like the masses of these folks whose lot this is, singing together in unison, but then the ascending poppy ahs that are going on there, as if to window dress this shitty situation that they're in to try to make it more appealing, like those who put them in that spot probably try to do with commercials and cheap holidays and all the little things that just get you by to the next day and keep you forgetting about how shitty life is. I thought that was really cool and clever.
Yes, the chorus is almost like a mantra which has been spoon fed to you.
Yeah.
You've got to take it in. You've got to accept birth, school, work, death, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Surprisingly little has actually been written about them on Tinternet for a band that's been going for so long, and quite well loved. There's a few blogs out there which mention them. So I've got a couple of little bits from there, it gives you a feel of what people think about the band. So I didn't write down the fucking blogs, but so apologies for the people who did write this. It is appreciated. So the first guy who wrote, it's hard to believe now just how out of step the Godfathers were with the majority of their so-called indie band contemporaries. Mean, sharp-suited coolness personified, with their two-guitar attack and aggressive live act, at odds with the shambling, charisma-free zones of most bands they had to share stage with. So you see where his colours are pinned. And then this correspondent wrote, when the Godfathers first emerged in the mid-1980s, their hard-edged and abrasive wound immediately attracted the interest and enthusiasm of many music journalists and critics. The South London band were essentially a new wave outfit, but were also influenced by 50s American rock and roll groups and 60s bands, British 60s bands such as The Who, The Kinks, and Small Faces. Just as an aside, sorry, I remember reading that the vocalist was saying that he was heavily influenced by Johnny Cash. Had a lot of that growing up and that kind of attitude, which is
Yeah.
interesting. For 3 years, between 88 and 91, the Godfathers' mainstream success seemed imminent. Despite heavy promotion from major record label Epic and a lot of press coverage and radio airplay, the band proved too out of vogue with the Manchester acid house and goth fashions of the time. I think he means shoegazing rather than goth. They remained a critics' act, never quite capturing the attention of the general public, and their breakthrough into the public sector never came, which I guess is true. But it goes on to say this: the highlights of the Godfathers' live calendar quickly became their yearly St. Valentine's Day massacre gigs. These always took place in London and had the band every February the 14th reenacting the famous 1920s Chicago mobster shootout by coming on stage, carrying fake machine guns, and spraying the audience with blank bullets. The first of these shows took place at the London Dungeon in 1986 and remained a popular and annual fixture. So they're really well known for that. The Valentine's Day massacre gigs every year. And
Yeah.
it sounds like a lot. I'd love to go to one, actually. It sounds like a lot of fun. So they'd split in 2000. In 2008, the band reformed with the original lineup. A comeback album, Jukebox Fury, was released in 2013, and two further albums in 2017 and 2022. However, continual lineup changes. I mean, revolving door stuff. So much so that even one of the founding brothers, Chris Coyne, left in 2016. In 2019, Peter Coyne announced they had parted ways with the previous Godfathers lineup, citing he could no longer work, tour, or perform with Steve, Tim, Alex, Darren, who I guess were the members of that particular month. The latest album, Alpha Beta Gamma Delta, in 2022, saw Peter backed by John, Wayne, Richie, and Billy, and good luck to them. I don't know who any of those people are, and then none of the people we mentioned before. So
Right.
it seems to just, But I think they're a band who are definitely celebrated by people who've seen them live, and I think that's how they're in their money now. And they put on a good show. People love it. Fair enough.
Yeah. If it pays the bills and everyone's still enjoying it, there's still a desire to see them, then hell yeah, fill that void.
Yeah. Cool. Excellent. All right, I shall wrap things up. Arlo Pop, thanks very much for recommending this. I never thought that we'd get around to Godfathers in this channel, but there you go. A really good recommendation and something a bit different, and great to a bit of 80s angry attitude. Can't beat it. Thanks for listening, Sandy.
Thank you.
Folks out there, tell us what you think. You familiar with the Godfathers? What do you think of this track? If you like it, hit the like button. Drop some comments. Tell us all about the Godfathers, your experience, any other tracks think we should catch on to. Just drop us a line. We'd love to hear from you. And if you haven't subscribed already, then please do. Remember, birth, school, work, the Audiophiles, death. It's the new mantra. We really appreciate everybody who supports this channel. So hop on board. That being said, thanks so much for watching, and we'll see all of you on the next episode of the Audiophiles.
See you later, guys.